in the Bible they talk about it, like the gift of tongues, when you can, some people interpret it as a yada yada blah, 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 blah. But this was an actual translator system, and then they started showing me how every single language that we could ever possibly think of is already pre-coded into the body, and not only just human languages but animal languages as well. And they're all pre-coded into the body, and when we can access these languaging systems, they're already built into the collective. And as long as you can access that, whatever I wanted to say would come out in whatever language that it was coded for. It stayed like that for an hour till I couldn't handle it anymore. I started freaking out, and I was like, I'm going back to bed. And when I woke up, it was back to English. But I was like, there was a part of me that was scared. I was like, am I ever going to be able to speak English again? I was like freaking out.
Oh, my God. So did you ever find out what language that was?
No. But there's another language that I've been speaking since 2000. It just comes out when I'm all of a sudden, because I still get energy surges a lot. Actually, I get them pretty much every day. Hey? And sometimes, though, when I get a real strong one, and it's usually when we're having conversations with these councils, that all of a sudden I'll start speaking in this other language. And I'm kind of starting to pick it up and learn it so that I understand, but I can't speak it unless I'm unless my body's being surged with energy. I can't speak it.
Right.
It's real cool. But yeah, I've never been in that whole language translator system ever again, but I know it's there because I was in it. And this human body contains so many things that we have that we're just completely oblivious to, that's built inside. There's literally every single superhero power that you can think of is built inside the body. Even things like the genie in the bottle. I mean, when you really meet your source and your true energy, it's literally like a genie in a bottle. It's a spirit inside an actual container, and it grants you wishes. And you ask what it wants. There's so much in these high spiritual states. It's really phenomenal.
So can you tell us about the beings that you were speaking of earlier? Did you call it the council or something? Or
yeah. Well, there's quite a few different councils. Which one would you like to talk about?
Let's say the main ones that are predominantly helping you with your technology and your work.
Here's some real cool stuff. Our body runs off senses, which are they're sensory devices that our body is coded to pick up. So there's this entire massive electromagnetic spectrum that goes all the way one way and all the way the other way. And but our body's only coded to pick up a small little bandwidth of these senses. Now, there are other bodies that are identical to ours, but are coded to a whole different band. Now, they can't actually detect us because our frequencies are completely different than their frequencies. But the way that these bands or these frequencies show up is in gas states or in solid states. So when you start actually getting into multi-dimensional reality, and multi-dimensional in this case essentially means that we each have our band of reality that we can function inside. As soon as you get outside that band, you become in somebody else's band, which is another dimension of reality. And so it's a way to essentially separate creation. So you can have creation going on all over the place, but everybody's completely oblivious to it. Now, our solar system is built exactly that same way. What's taking place even on one of the gas giants for us that we can't actually perceive because of our senses and because we're playing in our band is a whole completely different civilization in another dimension that's coexisting right now. We just can't actually pick up what's taking place. So there's actually life on every single planet in our solar system, which is really, really cool. Now, the sun itself, there's another civilization in there which I actually got to go to, and it's where the heavens essentially are. And they're not just it's not just a sun god, they're the actual sun gods and goddesses. In other words, they're beings that actually exist inside the sun, and the sun itself is in an enlightened state. It's been activated, and that's where essentially the gods and the goddesses exist inside. Now, when you start understanding the actual Earth's crust, the second most abundant, compound is quartz inside the Earth's crust. Quartz picks up vibrational frequencies from the environment, and it stores it as a memory system. when you start to understand the actual component and the way that the Earth's crust is actually built, you start to realize that it's one massive microchip. And this microchip with the quartz is capable of transmitting all the signals for every single thing that's happening on this planet to a source energy. And our source is always the sun. And so when you actually get into the sun, because it's like essentially like a full spectrum vibration, it can see into these different bands of frequency or these different bands of light. The beings inside the sun can actually see every single extraterrestrial system that exists in our solar system, where we can only see our own.
Okay.
So there's this whole evolutionary scale that's actually built inside of our very own solar system that we're completely unaware of. We think we're the only ones with life, but it's just because we don't have the sensors to be able to pick them up. Now, when you infuse the human body with a massive amount of energy, which opens up these new senses and these new spiritual abilities, where we move into these states of oneness, or when we move, if we generate enough energy, we'll move into these enlightened states where we're vibrating literally at the speed of light. Our eyes open up and we can start to see these other civilizations. We also start being able to travel like these other civilizations as well. The travel's a whole different conversation. These beings now in our sun are the ones essentially, those are our counsel for what's taking place on our planet. And they can send signals through cosmic radiation, which triggers reactions inside the Earth to shift the electromagnetic fields and frequencies. When this shifts take place, they essentially change the frequencies that come out from the center of the Earth, which shoot out the different frequencies or amplitude of energy through the actual crystal grid. When it shoots through the crystal grid, the crystals themselves code or amplify the energy that we're putting out. And so when this energy comes from the center of the Earth and then hits this crystal grid and then goes out past the crystal grid into us, that's what advances us through almost like these evolutionary cycles. Just on small scale, right? Just like, how we ebb and flow, basically. It seems like a random system, but it's not, because when they put new technology and new ideas and new information, they unlock another level of development inside the Earth. The Earth sends it out, and people all around the planet will come up with the same ideas all at the same time. There's not just one inventor of any one invention. There may be one who got it done first, but there's literally hundreds of people working on the exact same invention, all thinking they're the first, but they're not. Mm-hmm. We all work as a group. We all work as a collective. And when you start understanding that, we're all actually working together here. We're maybe in a race, but we're in a race to see who can actually get it out first and actually claim it. But those are still only like rules of man, thinking that we can claim a piece of information that was given to us in the first place.
Right.
So those are basically some of the beings that I work with are the ones who run off the sun. They're the ones who download information into me and kind of tell me what's happening around the world, and also kind of what I need to do. It drives me. The technology that they gave me is called Sacred G. It stands for Sacred Geometry. And Sacred Geometry is a language that nature uses to communicate with itself. And it's the language that's used to explain how vibrational energy works. Because it's not just energy. It's not just this plain energy that's all pervasive and everywhere. It's energy that's programmed with a mathematical structure which takes the form of vibration. And this vibration is what creates all of the reality that we experience. And Sacred Geometry is a language that's used to understand and explain how vibration works. But it can also code, it can code vibration, and it can also code nature. So once you start understanding, that we're not the only inhabitants in our own solar system, there's a whole other different type of multidimensional reality, and that's where you go from literally like 0D, which is 0-point energy, what a lot of people call it. Some people call it, quanta, or the flux, or the vacuum of space, the void. It's basically 0D. There's one-dimensional space. There's two-dimensional space. There's three-dimensional space, and it just keeps going on.